This program contains dramatizations of real events and violent content. Viewer discretion is advised. When a beloved music professor discovers the dead body of his partner,
Shawnee 911, your emergency?
There's blood all over.
David Stagg thinks he's walked into the aftermath of a suicide.
I think he choked himself.
But officers think otherwise.
Obviously, there was some kind of struggle that took place in the house.
And David Stagg becomes their primary suspect.
Bill Jennings fought for his life and lost at the hands of David Stagg.
But are investigators accusing an innocent man?
I think the person that murdered Bill Jennings was someone that came over that night after David Stagg left.
Now, two teams of experts will battle it out to determine who killed Bill Jennings. David Stagg.
Strangulation is a very intimate way to die.
Or someone else entirely.
There was no physical evidence whatsoever.
When forensic experts examine the computer, they find evidence that seems to point to a likely killer.
We found that there was a suicide note typed on that computer, and that document in the first sentence said, "This has nothing to do with David." Our opinion was that it was highly likely that David Stagg was the one who typed that, quote, suicide note.
And now investigators must ask themselves, did David Stagg kill his partner and then stage the scene to look like a suicide? Investigators believe David wrote a phony suicide note to deflect suspicion from himself. But Bath believes the note is the real deal, and he contacts computer expert Jeff Fischbach to prove it.
We asked if we could get a copy of the entire hard drive.
And it isn't long before Fischbach makes some revealing discoveries.
I found numerous suicide notes on the computer. They were spread over a pretty significant period of time.
And when Fischbach examines these notes and the one written the night Bill died, the similarities are distinct.
The software does specifically allow me to do searches that will isolate commonalities. And I certainly did find that all of the letters were fairly consistent in the way that the salutations were written and just some of the various language.
To Fischbach, the similarities are too great to ignore.
It was my reigning theory that Mr. Jennings himself had actually written all of the letters on the computer.
The defense suggests Bill Jennings wrote his own suicide note.
We believe Bill wrote the note because he had had a fight with David Stagg earlier in the evening. He had been drinking alcohol. He was depressed.
But Toth remains steadfast that David forged the note.
The person that typed the fake suicide note wants the reader to believe that Bill Jennings sincerely loved and missed David Stagg.
Supporters of both men sit through a grueling trial, listening intently to evidence from both sides.
When you consider the other evidence that disconnects Mr. Stagg to this crime scene, such as the foreign DNA under Mr. Jennings' fingernails, Mr. Stagg has no blood on him and he's not injured. You have to come up with ways to account for that, and they're simply unsuccessful.
The jury is hopelessly deadlocked. A 9-3 split for a guilty verdict.
There was nothing that ever showed a sign of a struggle with David Stagg. That is what was compelling for those three jurors.
Coming up on Forensics, You Decide.